Do you love me?
So today I'd like to introduce you to my great friend, Jack English, who really has been a friend through thick and thin, because not only did he meet me in the menopause, which I wasn't easy, I have to admit. I put my hands up in the air that I was impossible. You also have been there with my sons, you've been great friends with them, and you've been there when you didn't have a lot of work on, and you've made my books, and you've done all sorts of things. But you're much better than this, because you've also worked with the greatest film directors, personally for me, in the world. Luc Besson, Lynn Ramsey, Woody Allen, and this is Jack English. I think the story I like the most about you, and this is when I really thought I must meet him, was the story that when you had no money, you went out and bought Hermes. So tell the story, what it was like that day, before we get on to the hard stuff.
I just wanted to make myself feel better, and I probably got, in those days, a couple of £100 to my name, which I spent on an umbrella from Hermes.
And what did it feel like, this umbrella? Did you keep the umbrella? Have you still got the umbrella?
And I think I lent it to someone for a wedding and I never got it back. I can't remember, but it made me feel good for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Which in those days I was interested in.
Yeah, exactly, because you really worked upon yourself. So let's talk about film, what it was like to make films with, say, Luc Besson.
How it started for me was being hired by Gary Oldman to shoot Nil by Mouth. And it just so happened that Luke had produced Nil by Mouth. And then when Nil by Mouth finished, or was coming to an end,
yes,
Gary said to Luke, you have to meet this photographer that I've got on my film. And so off I went to Pinewood with a portfolio in my hand. Looking back on it, it was great. I mean, I was just pleased to be in a meeting with him, really. And my portfolio in those days was had no film stills in it. It was black and white portraits of people in the music business, from Ginger Baker to Eric Clapton. He looked at these black and white portraits and he said, I'm here for 6 months shooting the film, and I'm here and I would like you to come in for 20 days and choose whatever days you want and do whatever you want. And I thought, that's fantastic, what an amazing offer. And I got home and the next day the phone rang, and it was the line producer of the film, and he said he wants you to come in every day.
Oh, fantastic.
So I thought, looking back, it was such a nice risk for him to take with someone that had no experience in the film business. And it was in those days it was $100 million movie, which was a big budget film then. And he took, and he gave me the gig, and so whatever anybody else ever says about Luke, I thought it was an amazing risk for him to take and an amazing opportunity for me. And I stood there the first day, like this.
It must be terrifying.
You could hear a pin drop on the set. He was very strict. He was very, very strict on the set. Very sort of...
I was told at a fashion shoot once, just act the job. I was told it by Katie Barker. It was great. In a way, because she said, just act it, Amanda, that you can do it. Mm. So what was your favourite film that he directed, Luke?
Well, I always liked working with him because he, whether you're a fan of his films or not, he operated the camera, he was really interested in photography, he loved photography.
Yes, you can see that.
So he gave me a lot of time, a lot of space, and kind of let me do what I wanted, which is quite unusual.
And I love the way you talk about Lynn Ramsey, because she really is fighting for women's film, isn't she? She's doing so well. And
Lynn's a one of, and
yes.
I was introduced to her by Robin Stobo, and did a film with Lynn for the London Olympics. I just hit it off with her and really enjoyed working with her.
Yes. I remember you picking up that man on the beach, that fantastic man with a face. brilliant face.
Oh, yeah.
And what about Gary? Because we used to always tease you. You love
Well,
Gary.
Gary hired me to do Nil by Mouth, which is the first film I ever did, really. And so I'd had always thought a lot of him as an actor. So to meet him and then be offered a job with him was quite something. In those days, I was kind of he's somebody that if you gave me the choice of working with various people, he would have been very high on the list. And so when I got a job with him, which again it was risky on his part because it was based on work I'd done on record covers, because you still had record covers in those days, and he'd seen a record cover I'd done,
and that's how you got involved.
Yeah, and I had no film stills to show him, and he made a point of saying, I don't want normal film stills. He said, I don't want that. He said, how are you going to shoot it? He said, well, we're going to shoot it on Super 16 with a long lens. I said, okay, well, I'll shoot everything with an 80 to 200 lens then, and I'll try and...
Yeah.
And, and I made quite a lot of the images as quite, in film still terms, abstract.
Yes.
And then we did a book of the pictures, a limited edition book, and it turned out well.
It'll be like that.
It'll be like this. There's never been another one since.
No, of course not.
One off.
Even though the latest film isn't probably your favourite film that you've done, it does look very, very good. The lighting's amazing. I think it won some awards the other night by the BAFTAs.
Which one?
The Darkest Hour.
Okay.
But I love the way you shoot because it looks painterly.
Okay.
And I wondered, are you influenced by painters?
Yeah, I like to think. Yeah. I've always been a huge fan of Bacon.
Yes.
And I think he was his work had some influence on Nil by Mouth.
I suppose the work that you've done that I really, really loved was your work on Skid Row. And yes, in Los Angeles. I don't know, I just love the pictures. I couldn't believe how dressed up all these people are on the road, and they're so poor, and yet they look incredible. They really look like film stars. It's not just about Hollywood.
Well, I like that contradiction because of the weather and the American dream and all the rest of it.
Yes.
People living on the street, so I suppose.
How did you find that? When did you start that project?
It's been ongoing. It's sort of still a work in progress. It's a part of LA I like, and it's a part of LA I suppose I was drawn to, in a sense, because of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
One of my first trips downtown was to look at the Bradbury building that Ridley used in Blade Runner.
Yes.
And then when I was looking at the Bradbury, then I realised there was a whole homeless community down there, and it was there were people walking around everywhere as well, which is unusual.
Yes, exactly.
And so I liked walking sort of amongst them and that kind of thing. And every time I go to LA, I'm always drawn to it again for some reason.
I don't know. I was with you that day when I asked you to stop the car, and I got out because there was this beautiful girl on the corner, and I said to her, why on earth are you homeless? You're absolutely beautiful. And she said, I didn't have plan B. And it sort of stuck with me.
Good quote.
I always say to my sons, have plan B, because you really need it in life.
Sure.
So tell me, when you first started, you didn't start with photography at all, you started with clothes. You are a dandy yourself. You look good in clothes.
Before photography, I did anything that came along. And anything.
Anything?
Yeah. I worked on oil rigs, I drove lorries, and I worked for bookmakers. For a period, worked as a stylist in I think it was the late 70s.
Yeah, did you like that?
Yeah.
And how did you meet Andy Warhol?
I met Andy Warhol. Funny enough, I borrowed a camera from someone, and there was a shop on the King's Road, a clothes shop, and I decided I wanted to take some pictures of the dummies that were in the window. And I looked up, and he was looking through the window. And he came in, and I took some pictures of him. And he had a sort of small entourage with him, and I wound up spending the day with him.
That must be incredible.
Yeah, he was very quiet. He didn't say very much, but I was pleased to have these pictures of him.
I loved his book A to Z with Andy Warhol. Telling him how to get through life. He's very, very clever. So how's the stroke affecting you?
I suppose what pissed me off is I stopped drinking. I stopped taking drugs a long time ago. Then I stopped smoking. And I cycle everywhere.
I mean, you're very fit.
And then I got a fucking stroke.
And when you were growing up, where did you actually come from? Tell us.
Where my parents come from?
Yes, yes.
My mother was Dutch and my father was English, and they met during the war, during the the end of the German occupation in Holland.
Yes.
So my father was a soldier in Holland. Met this young Dutch girl and came home with her.
Well, I don't blame him.
No, neither do I.
No. But you told a wonderful story about going to Holland.
Well, yeah, I wound up doing a film in Holland. I hadn't been back there for such a long time, and I went back to where I actually went and I was shown the building where my father was stationed during the war, and it hadn't changed. And I remember staring at this building and thinking of this guy, my father, meeting my mother towards the end of the war, and how amazing that must have been. The feeling to have survived the war, to have fallen in love, to go home with the person you love. I thought it must have been an extraordinary experience.
How does music influence you? Does it influence you?
When I was recovering from the stroke and I first came out of hospital, I was walking a lot and I'd listen to music the whole time. And you pointed out the app on the phone, and I discovered I was walking 8, 9, 10 miles a day.
And you were a lunatic.
I have a French radio station on in the flat in the morning called FIP, which is broadcast from Paris, which I like because they play a big variation of music. Yeah.
And what is your next film that you're going to do?
I have no idea yet.
You have no idea?
No.
And who would you like to work for, if you had any choice and that you haven't worked for?
Paul Thomas Anderson,
Yeah.
who I came very close to working with recently, but it went a bit pear-shaped at the last minute.
Do they ever give any awards for still photographers?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yes. I mean, you have a whole gang, don't you? You meet the boys. You love the boys, don't you? I mean, Gary. I used to get so jealous of Gary.
Yeah.
I got so jealous of Eric.
I don't want to throw famous names in there.
No, but in a way they weren't famous for you. You know, they were just your mates.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
yeah,
They're not really. They're really real friends.
Sure, and I've worked obviously with Gary and Eric. I've worked with them, which has been extraordinary. It's very nice to work with someone who you admire.
Yes. So you're using a camera, Fuji at the moment. What other ones do you like? I mean, because I thought you liked Leica.
I do.
Yes.
I do. But Fuji have been very kind and lent me equipment recently, and it's very quiet without having to
disturb everybody.
Without having to mask the sound by putting it inside something, which is what you normally do.
Yes.
Okay, that was the poster for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Gary
Yes.
Oldman. Eric.
Wonderful picture. Yes.
Mila Jovovich, covered in blood.
I love her.
Joan of Arc.
Yeah, she was amazing in this.
Gary directing Nil by Mouth. Woody Allen in Antibes directing Magic in the Moonlight. 2 homeless guys downtown in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's an amazing picture, isn't it?
A Swimmer, another still from Swimmer by Lynn Ramsey.
That's a lucky
Still
girl.
from Tyrannosaur by Paddy Considine. Still from Nil by Mouth, for which Gary had to get permission from Francis Ford Coppola.
I love that. So anyway, Jack, thank you very much for giving us.
Is that it? Okay.
Yes, it is.